All right, everybody, as promised, I'm going to go through some of the songs from each era. And since I just finished telling the White Wizzards story for the High Speed GTO lineup, I figured let's talk about some of the first songs from White Wizzard. And I want to talk about literally the initial demos that I did. I told the story in the White Wizzards story, but basically I sat down this weekend, my girlfriend went out of town, and decided I was going to start my own band. And the first song I started with was this riff and this song concept that I'd had forever. I had it in an old band of mine that was more grunge rock, and it didn't really work in that band. And I knew I wanted to do something with it. I liked its swing, I liked its vibe, and it's basically the song that became Celestina. And the way it was named was I had a girl in my building where I worked in LA I had a crush on. Her name was Celestina, and she was gorgeous. We went on a date. It didn't really go that well. She was kind of princessy, wasn't really my vibe. But I loved her name, and for some reason, that riff that was in my head that I'd had before and her name came together. It's one of those weird alchemy things where I don't even know how that happened. But when I demoed the song, I remember I told the guys, like, I don't have all the lyrics yet, but this is going to be called Celestina. I had some general lines and some things worked out, but this was the first song that I named. You know, that this song had a name and everything when I did the demo. So the main riff is the main swing that I had forever, which is just. So it just went down to that F, that. Has this nice just rolling swing, and I just always loved the vibe of it. It stayed in my head ever since I wrote it. It was one of the first songs I ever wrote, like, instrumentally. And like, so when I did the demo, I just, I did the whole, A to F to G for the chorus. I had that before too, was just I already had that vocal melody in my head, just na 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 na, yeah. I mean, it just lends itself to a big chorus vocal melody, that A to F to G. It's been used in so many songs, that chord progression to make big choruses. So there's nothing new. We weren't reinventing the wheel or anything, but the song just kind of took on a life of its own and kind of ended up being a little left of everything that had been done before it that had that swing vibe. And one thing that I was really stoked on, though, is what I came up with when I did the demo, was to have a hook riff underneath the chorus that gave it more vibe, that just didn't make it just a basic 3-chord structure. And it was this riff. That thing right there goes underneath the chorus constantly, over and over. And I wrote that underneath the main riffs, and I felt like it just completely, you don't notice it there, like, obviously. But I think in the general hook of the song, when it changes and goes into the chorus, it just opens the chorus up. Sometimes simple dynamics like that make a big difference in songwriting. And I really felt like that was a cool riff, so I definitely wanted to keep that in there underneath as the chorus vocal melodies progressed over it. And really, I mean, in essence, the song is pretty much that. We ended up adding a little walk-up, to kind of turn the riff around and just give it a little more vibe. So that kind of came later. And then the bridge breakdown, like, I had that as well forever, just the. And there's just, it lends itself to a nice swingy solo, It's in that pocket, LaRue did a great solo in that pocket of A to F to G again. It's a great pocket for soloing. I mean, and he did such a good job. He played, I had a Telecaster at the time, a 52 reissue blonde Telecaster, butterscotch, and with a maple neck. And he played, that's the only song that he played a Telecaster on. And that's what gives it its kind of unique vibe too. I think the Telecaster was really key on that song. And LaRue, again, as usual, played an incredible solo on it. I'll never forget when he was tracking it. I was there with him. We were just just vibing back and forth on what it should be, and you did a great job on it, man. And then the outro was, I wanted to kind of have a really good outro that had a lot of emotion and feel to just kind of wrap the song around, and it was just that. So basically that, it just lends itself to a great outro vocal melody, just na 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 na, don't waste my time. So it just, I mean, I wanted to give a lot of bombast on the bass, make it melodic. A lot of times I was playing chords then because it was just one guitar, so it gave me an opportunity to kind of use the bass as kind of a mixture of a guitar and a bass, like a lot of melody. And I really took full advantage of that on the first EP, and I really wanted to, give the bass a really big presence. And I think we did a good job with it on there. And I think it's a great dynamic between the bass and the Telecaster and the lead work of LaRue and the melodic structure. And then once we finally got the lyrics and vocal melodies, Luna delivered a great vocal, and we ended up with a song that I think is classic. I think it's a top 5 song ever in White Wizzard history, and it's my favorite song from the EP. I know a lot of people, GTO or March of the Skeletons and stuff are theirs, but there's just something about Celestina. It never gets old. I never get tired of playing it. It really is a timeless song, and it just kind of took on a life of its own. And sometimes songs are like that. They have that kind of alchemy. So that's the quick story of Celestina.